Welcome back, guys. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet done so. Now, just last week, a group of four friends from South Carolina in the United States of America decided to drive to Matamoros in Mexico just so one of them, by name Latavia Washington McGee, could undergo a medical procedure. Unfortunately, their trip would be violently interrupted when unidentified gunmen, allegedly allianced with a cartel, attacked their van and opened fire. This is the true crime story of how four American citizens were attacked, kidnapped, two of them got killed, how the FBI and other state authorities intervened, and how Mexico also brought in their security agencies. And prepare for a twist, because you would actually have a cartel organization issuing a letter denouncing the actions perpetrated by some of their members. This is a true crime story that is really unfortunate, but also very intriguing. Now, if you are ready for this true crime story, please just buckle up and let's go. Now, these four Americans by name Eric James Williams, Zindel Brown, and cousins Latavia T. McGee and Shaid Woodward drove from the morning of March 3rd, 2023 into Matamoros, Mexico, which is in the northeastern state of Tamaulipas, just south of Brownsville, Texas. Originally, their journey was from South Carolina in the United States of America, and the main reason why they embarked on this journey was to accompany Latavia to get a cosmetic surgery done. Now, shortly after crossing into Mexico, unidentified gunmen opened fire upon the passengers in the vehicle. So these four friends suddenly found themselves under attack. And according to them, they wouldn't even know why somebody would attack them. And this puts them in a state of flight as the gunmen also pursued them amidst gunshots aimed at them and some getting into their car. Now, they got these four Americans and then they put them in another car and then they sped off with them. So just like that, the original reason why they came to Mexico was out of the window, and now they were caught up in a situation where they had to fight for their lives. It turns out that these Americans were not originally targeted, but it seems there was a sort of misunderstanding, as things will turn out later to reveal. Now, the Mexican investigators actually think that the kidnappers may have wrongly believed the Americans were rival human traffickers, and as such, decided to attack them and eliminate the competition, so to speak. Now, I have a problem here. What happened to due diligence? But then again, I think I have to withdraw my question, because we are dealing with ruthless people who may rather focus more on shoot before you confirm, because I'm sure they are also used to meeting a lot of rivals on that route. There are rumors that the four friends actually got missing to an extent and were trying to reach the medical institution they were going to by phone, but they had cell connectivity problems. So it could be possible that they strayed off a bit and they ended up on a route usually used by rival human traffickers, hence the mistaken identity. But all this does not justify why they should be fired upon, which would eventually lead to two of them being killed. Now, it's not even only these two people who were killed. A 33-year-old Mexican woman was also caught in the stray gunshots that were flying about in the course of the pursuit, and she died on the spot. Her name was Areli Pablo, and like I've been saying, the world is getting more and more dangerous. So we don't know what Areli Pablo was doing or where she was going, but definitely she was going about her life. And just like that, a stray bullet coming from a hot pursuit based on a mistaken identity ends up killing her. Just look at the equation. It just doesn't make sense. But unfortunately, this is the world that we live in. So I would always say, keep an eye out. And then again, you can never be too careful. How can you wake up and see this coming? You just can't. We hope for the best, but we should always prepare for the worst. Now, after this, they got these 4 Americans. 2 of them actually died because they got caught up in the gunfire that was going on when they were being chased. So they died, but all 4 of them were carried away by the cartel members. And the 2 of them that survived were now being kept under guard. So, of the 4, Williams and McGee, Latavia, survived and were still alive at the point. So they were now being kept under guard by the cartel. And authorities picked up this issue. The FBI were so swift, and I commend them on the swiftness with which they took over the case. It didn't take long at all since the case broke. And just like that, they were coordinating with other security agencies and key stakeholders within Mexico's security agencies to ensure that these 4 Americans were found as soon as possible, with no stone being left unturned. Now, as the search was going on, Williams and McGee were found the morning of March 7th in a wooden house in the Laguna area outside of Matamoros. And one of the deceased was also found inside that same house, and then the second deceased person was found outside that same house. So it was clear that this house was a central base for them to do whatever they were doing to these 4 captives, 2 of which had already died. Now, the 2 Americans found dead had blankets used to cover them, and then, one of the dead was wearing a surgical robe when he was found. The Mexicans tried to seek medical attention for the Americans who were injured in the kidnapping, it turns out, but it looks like it was not successful because investigations are now revealing that they took them in an ambulance to a clinic, but unfortunately, they still died. Now, during the days that these Americans were held, the Americans were transferred to various places, including a clinic, in order to create confusion and avoid rescue efforts, and also throw security agencies off their trail. Latavia McGee is a mother of 5 who traveled from South Carolina to Mexico for a cosmetic medical procedure, as her family confirms. And her mother, Barbara Burgess, told reporters that she had spoken to her daughter on Tuesday, and she said that McGee had no major injuries. Now, accordingly, the wife of the second survivor, Eric Williams, who goes by the name Michelle Williams, indicated that the FBI told her husband had been shot twice in one leg and once in the other leg. Now, her husband has undergone surgery in a Texas hospital, and it looks like everything is going to get better from there. Brown was among the 2 killed, and it's unfortunate because he was on the trip to Mexico just to support his friend, Latavia McGee, for her surgery. Now, these things are very sensitive, but like I always say, you never know when your time is due. RIP to these 2 guys. It's very, very unfortunate. It's very, very unfortunate how people are going about their normal lives and they just get caught up in someone's bullshit. But that's unfortunate. So, Woodward, who was also killed, was McGee's cousin, and the bodies of the 2 Americans killed were repatriated to the US on March 9th. Now, a 5th person who was traveling with the group called Cheryl Orange did not cross the border into Mexico and remained in Brownsville. And this is according to police report. And Orange, although she didn't cross, it was because that she did not have her ID with her. And it turns out later that she contacted police the day after the kidnapping when she could not get in touch with them. So, things happen. She was actually supposed to join them, but then she didn't have an ID with them. So this Cheryl Orange, so-called, ended up having to stay behind, unfortunately. And I'm sure she might have been sad because these are her friends, going on a field trip for a medical procedure, accompanying one of them. It would be a nice journey. I would have wanted to be part of it if I was there. So to have her not being able to go, I think she would be sad. But it turns out it might have just saved her life. And also it gave a lifeline to them when they got kidnapped, because she ended up alerting authorities after she couldn't get through to them on phone. Now, the investigation continued from this point, and 5 alleged members of a powerful Mexican cartel were charged with aggravated kidnapping and murder on March 10th in connection to this kidnapping. Now, the Attorney General's office in Tamaulipas announced the charges a day after the Gulf Cartel allegedly took responsibility for the kidnapping. And it didn't end there. Although the Gulf Cartel took responsibility for the kidnapping, they brought a picture of 5 men who had been tied up, and it came with a handwritten note which indicated that these 5 men are from the Gulf Cartel, but they are responsible for this kidnapping, but then the Gulf Cartel didn't sanction that action to be committed by them. And as such, they were rogue people doing their own thing. So although they are part of the Gulf Cartel actually dissociates from what they've done to these 4 Americans, because it was not something that they were asked to do by the cartel. Moments after this, these men were also bound up in a vehicle and delivered, allegedly, to Mexican authorities with all the disclaimers written in a letter, allegedly coming from the Gulf Cartel. Now, it's worth noting that the Gulf Cartel has also been noted as having ties to the infamous CJNG cartel. Again, a 24-year-old suspect arrested in connection with the incident was formally indicted on an aggravated kidnapping charge. The man was allegedly acting as a lookout when authorities finally located the 4 missing Americans. He was the one who was keeping guard at the time. Now, the office also announced that a homicide charge in the killing of Pablo, that's the bystander, had also been filed. So, this is where the case has gotten to at this point. But personally, I'm very sad for how this turned out. It's so unfortunate how you just wake up with your innocent thoughts and your well-meaning plans to start the day, and you just enter into the lane of someone's evil plan unknowingly, and you become a victim in one way or the other. I pray the world gets better. I wish the families of the deceased the strength to go through this and come out stronger. And RIP to the 2 brave men who have passed on. And for those who survived, I hope they don't suffer from survivor's guilt. I hope they are able to live their lives to make the memories of those who passed worth it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet done so. We'll catch you another time. Stay safe out there.